In a small village nestled between rolling hills and wide fields, Christmas was always a time for joy. The village was simple, with mud huts and thatched roofs, but the people had big hearts. The villagers would decorate their homes with handmade ornaments and brightly colored cloth. The air was filled with the scent of baked goods, and the sound of laughter could be heard from every corner of the village. It was Christmas Eve, and the children were excited. They had spent the day helping their parents decorate the village square with flowers, lights, and ribbons. The older women had been busy in the kitchen, cooking delicious dishes to share with everyone. The men worked together to prepare the village square for the big celebration. Among the children was Amina, a kind and curious 10-year-old girl. Amina lived with her grandmother, who was known for her wisdom and kindness. Amina loved Christmas because it was a time when the whole village came together. She often wondered what it would be like if she could give a special gift to her grandmother, who had always given her so much love and care. On Christmas Eve, as the sun began to set, the village gathered in the square. The children were dressed in their best clothes, and the adults were smiling as they greeted one another. Amina's grandmother stood near the fire, talking to some of the other elders. Amina looked around, feeling happy and content, but there was something on her mind. "I want to give Grandma a gift," she whispered to herself. "Something special, something that will show her how much I love her." Amina looked around the square, trying to think of something. The other children were playing games, running around with bright smiles on their faces. The village had always been a place full of laughter and happiness, but Amina wanted to do something more this year. She wanted to show her grandmother just how much she meant to her. She noticed a small, colorful flower growing at the edge of the square. It was different from the other flowers, bright, beautiful, and unique. Amina bent down to pick it, and as she held it in her hands, she felt a sense of peace. The flower was small but perfect, just like the love her grandmother had always given her. Amina carefully tucked it into her pocket. "Tomorrow," she thought, "I will give this flower to Grandma. It will be my gift to her." As the evening wore on, the village began to gather for the Christmas feast. There were plates filled with food, laughter, and songs. People danced around the fire, and the sound of drums filled the air. The children joined in the dancing, their feet moving with the rhythm of the music. Amina smiled, feeling the warmth of the fire and the love of her community. When the celebration ended, Amina and her grandmother walked back home together. The village was peaceful now. The only sounds, the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds. Amina clutched the flower in her hand, ready to give it to her grandmother the next morning. That night, as she lay in bed, Amina thought about all the things she loved about Christmas. It wasn't the food, the decorations, or the gifts that made Christmas special. It was the love and togetherness of her family and her village. She felt grateful for all the blessings in her life. The next morning, as the sun rose, Amina rushed to her grandmother's side. Her grandmother was sitting outside, sipping tea and smiling as the first light of day touched the village. Amina walked up to her, holding out the flower. "Grandma," she said softly, "this is for you. I picked it just for you." Her grandmother's eyes brightened as she took the flower from Amina. She gently touched Amina's cheek and smiled warmly. "My dear, this is the most beautiful gift I could ever receive," she said. Thank you, my sweet child. Amina's heart swelled with happiness. She had given her grandmother the most precious gift she could, a symbol of her love. And that, Amina knew, was what Christmas was all about. The village was alive with excitement as the day went on. People visited each other's homes, sharing food and stories. The children played games, and the elders sat together, talking about the old days. There was peace and joy everywhere, and Amina felt that this Christmas would always be a special memory in her heart. And so, in that small village, a simple Christmas surprise brought even more love and happiness. Amina's gift, a small flower, was a reminder that the best gifts come from the heart. The village would continue to celebrate Christmas with love and togetherness year after year, because the true meaning of Christmas was found in the hearts of the people who shared it. The sun was high in the sky as Amina and her grandmother walked to the village square the day after Christmas. The village was even more beautiful now, with everyone still smiling from the celebrations of the night before. The air was cool, and the sound of children's laughter filled the air as they ran around, playing with their new toys and gifts. As Amina and her grandmother walked, Amina held her grandmother's hand tightly. She had always felt safe when her grandmother was with her. She looked up at the sky and smiled, knowing that this Christmas would forever be special in her heart. "Grandma," Amina asked suddenly, "why do we celebrate Christmas?" Her grandmother looked down at her with a soft smile. "We celebrate Christmas to remember the love that fills our hearts. It's a time to show kindness, to care for one another, and to appreciate the blessings we have. Christmas is about giving and sharing what we have with others, especially those we love." Amina nodded. She understood now. Christmas wasn't just about the gifts or the food. It was about giving love and kindness to the people around you. As they reached the village square, Amina noticed something different. The villagers were gathering together near the large tree in the center of the square. There was a small crowd around a large table, and everyone seemed excited. Amina pulled her grandmother towards the gathering, curious about what was happening. When they reached the table, Amina's eyes widened in surprise. The table was covered with gifts, each wrapped in bright, colorful cloth. There were baskets filled with fruit, handmade blankets, and even toys for the children. At the center of the table was a large basket filled with fresh bread and sweet treats, the smell of which made Amina's stomach growl. "What's all this?" Amina asked, her voice filled with wonder. One of the village elders, a kind woman named Mama Chidi, smiled at Amina. "This is our Christmas gift to you, Amina. We have all come together to show our love and appreciation for you and your grandmother. You both bring so much joy to our village, and we wanted to make this Christmas even more special." Amina's eyes filled with tears as she looked around at the villagers. She had never expected anything like this. "But I didn't do anything to deserve this," she whispered. Her grandmother gently placed her hand on Amina's shoulder. "You are loved, Amina. You have a kind heart, and that is the greatest gift anyone could give. Sometimes, when we give love to others, it comes back to us in ways we least expect." Amina felt a warmth in her chest. She had always tried to be kind, but to see the villagers come together like this was a miracle. They had all contributed something, a small token of love for her and her grandmother. As Amina looked at the gifts, she spotted something that made her heart skip a beat. In the corner of the table was a small wooden box, intricately carved with beautiful patterns. She recognized it immediately. It was the same box that her grandmother had always talked about. It was a family heirloom, something passed down through generations, and it had been lost for many years. Amina had heard stories about the box, but she had never seen it in person. "Grandma," Amina gasped, pointing to the box. "Is that the family box?" Her grandmother's face lit up with surprise and joy. "It is, but how did it get here?" Mama Chidi stepped forward, holding the box with great care. "It was found by one of the villagers. We knew it meant a lot to you, so we made sure it was returned. Sometimes things get lost, but love has a way of bringing them back when we need it most." Amina's grandmother took the box in her hands, her eyes shining with emotion. She opened it carefully, revealing the beautiful items inside: old coins, small trinkets, and a necklace that had belonged to Amina's great-grandmother. The box was a treasure, not just because of its contents, but because it carried memories of generations past. Tears filled Amina's eyes as she hugged her grandmother tightly. "This is the best Christmas ever," she whispered. As the day went on, the villagers continued to share food, laughter, and stories. Amina and her grandmother sat by the fire, surrounded by the warmth of their community. Amina looked around at the smiling faces of her friends and neighbors, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that Christmas was not about the material things. It was about the love that connected everyone. Later that evening, as the stars twinkled in the sky, the village gathered for one last celebration. The sound of drums echoed through the night, and people danced under the moonlight. Amina joined in, laughing and dancing with her friends, her heart full of joy. She glanced at her grandmother, who was sitting quietly by the fire, a content smile on her face. Amina knew that this Christmas would always be remembered as a time of love, kindness, and community. And as the night came to a close, Amina realized that the best Christmas gift of all was the love they had shared with each other. That was the true meaning of Christmas, a gift that would last forever. And so, Amina and her grandmother, along with the entire village, went to bed that night with hearts full of joy and peace, knowing that Christmas had brought them closer together than ever before.